Hello everybody! Today's stream is gonna be all about the third episode of the Queen's Gambit, and we are continuing our film club series. Disclaimer: if you are under 15, this might not be the content for you. Another disclaimer: if it has sensitive content, the whole series, so if you ever feel triggered by what I say or what you have experienced with Queen's Gambit, then please, again, this might not be the stream for you. Thanks, guys. Thank you for the feedback. And also for today's episode, I found an amazing source that I could use, and it's under !link 1. It's a chess-based India article which was written by Shahid Ahmed. Wrote it because it's a fantastic summary of episode 3 from a chess player point of view. Catch up from the second episode. We do know now that Beth is living with her adoptive parents, and also we know that she wins the Kentucky State Championship. We get insights into her teenage years. You remember, guys, from episode 2 how she was a bit bullied at school. She's not really finding her space, not really finding friends outside of the chess world. But within the chess world, she starts to meet people more and more. And she's just really obsessed to gain more knowledge about chess and try to get books. And at this stage, in second episode, Beth and Alma gets a little bit closer. That was just a catch up. Next one is, so episode 3 has the title Doubled Pawns. And I just decided to create this slide in case anyone who is not very into chess yet, in case they don't know what that means. And I put the exact description of Wikipedia, which you can read here. And you will see next to it the chessboard with examples of the doubled pawn. So we have on the B file and on the E file doubled pawns. The ones on the E file are also isolated, meaning there is no way you can protect them with another pawn. So they are kind of in the middle, isolated. But feel free to read the description. And the great thing about this title is it has a kind of underlying meaning. So usually doubled pawns in chess are considered a bad thing, so players would try to avoid them. But within this episode, we can see how even if you have a bad situation on the chessboard, it doesn't mean you lost the game. Even if you have doubled pawns, it doesn't mean you lost the game. So any bad situation can be turned into a good. So the creators were trying to reflect this with the title, and I thought this was super cool. In chess, double pawns are two pawns of the same color residing on the same file. So we see the B4 and the B5 pawns, and E3 and the E5 pawns. In the opening scene, we see we go back in time to Beth's childhood when she's still with her birth mom. And it's a really emotional scene. The mom goes into the lake to swim, and she kind of disappears for quite a long while, and Beth starts worrying. Here you can see Beth watching over the water, but suddenly her mom arises and then comes back, and while this scene is going on, you can hear the chess clock going like tick 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 tick, and it creates a huge suspension. In my opinion, it's a really well filmed shot, and it still connects non-chess scene with some chess sounds there, so that's really cool. Then at the beginning, Beth and Alma arrive to Cincinnati for the tournament with a bigger prize, so they go with the intention for Beth to win the tournament so they can get some money, because at this stage Alma is not officially but separated from the husband, so they don't really have any income coming in. They arrive to the tournament, and now when she goes to register at the beginning, actually the scene when she goes to register is quite a typical thing to do at chess tournaments. Like, you have to go and sign up that you are present, and yeah, depends on the tournament, but it's something that would happen at a chess tournament. They already recognize her as the Kentucky State Champion, which is a bit, seems like Beth is a bit taken aback by the fact that kind of everyone knows her name just by playing the Kentucky State Championship. And the person, the organizer, says to her, you will have 2 games per day, and the time control is 120 per 40. Do you guys know? That's my first question. Do you guys know what does this mean? 120 per 40. The lad explains it to her straight away because she doesn't really know what does that mean. But do you guys have an idea? At first I hadn't thought, but I wasn't sure if it's right. But actually at the Weekend tournament, they had a very similar situation which big players were playing recently. 40-second increment per move and 120-minute for start. Sounds odd. Yeah, because at the time, remember, look at the slide, the chess clocks were old school. So they didn't have digital clocks at the time. So basically, it wouldn't be really possible to give an increment. But what it means is that they had, so 120 minutes for 40 moves. Then, as Beth goes into the tournament, walks around, here's the strange guy who is actually Benny, speaking loudly about how the Caro-Kann defense is actually rubbish, basically. He doesn't use this word, but that's what he means. All pawns and no hope. So here is our first like bigger chess reference, and all these coming up now are from the article which you can pull up. Basically, they start talking, Beth and Benny, at this stage, and Benny mentions that Rahevsky was playing like that or younger than Beth Harmon's age at the time. So he basically mentions that there was a player who played just as good as Beth. And you will see that this picture I actually used before. Reshevsky was an 8-year-old on this photo when he gave his first simul, and he beat most of these guys. So I used this picture before when I explained the simul with episode 1, and I had no clue that it's that person who is mentioned he's mentioned in the film. Why does he say open tournaments could only hurt him? This because when you reach a certain level, you have to be careful how many open tournaments you play, because in an open tournament, you can play against anybody, right? There is opposite side, there are closed tournaments, which are usually based on invitation. And even in Queen's Gambit, we see tournaments which are invitation based. For example, the US Open is an open, but the one she plays in Russia, it's an invitation only tournament. When it's a closed tournament, you can prepare for your opponents. You can prepare for each of them what opening they play, what's their style. But with an open, you can't prepare because you don't know who are you gonna play. So you kind of have to just prep generally. And big players think that they have more chances to make mistakes and lose their FIDE ELO points, so they try to avoid to play too many open tournaments. That's what Benny means here. So an interesting part is when Beth is back in the room to analyze her own game, and Alma at first is annoying her with the TV. Then she asks her, what are you doing? And then she says, I'm analyzing my own game. And Alma is asking for what? And she's like, I'm looking for mistakes. And then Alma goes, and there aren't any. So it could sound cocky, but it's actually, this was true. Like, there were no mistakes in her game. So she was pretty good, I must say. In the article, the guy mentions that chess is not a spectator-friendly game because it really requires silence during the game. And also, if you are not prepared, if you don't know the rules, if you are not sure what strategies there are in chess, you won't really understand anything. But as I mentioned, it's the same with any other games, right? Football, basketball. If someone is not familiar with the basic concepts and the rules and the teams, maybe, or the players, they won't enjoy watching. But actually, if you know how to play chess, you would absolutely love to watch the big players live. And even though you have to be silent, and nowadays there would be big screens showing the moves. I remember at the Dresden Chess Olympiad, I was there just as a spectator, and they gave us these headphones to listen to commentary while the players were playing. So that was really, really cool. It's a really great experience. If any of you get to go at any time, do make sure you do. Oh yeah, and even Alma mentions this is so much more exciting than I ever imagined. And she watched Beth's whole game. She gets more and more into it, definitely. Like, that's absolutely true. And I guess the more she understands, because Beth is always trying to explain to her what happened in her game, but the more she understands, the more she enjoys watching the games. Absolutely true. Then during the tournament, Beth plays against Rudolph, and this is the scene which you can see here at the bottom, where they have a lot of spectators, lots of people gathering around them, and the twin brothers are explaining Alma the position, and they say, "Oh, Beth wouldn't want to rush into an endgame where there are opposite colors of bishops. So white has a bishop on the white lines, white diagonals, and black has a bishop that runs on the black diagonal." So they mentioned Beth wouldn't want to get into this endgame, but actually there is no endgame because Beth checkmates beautifully. There is also a scene where you see the clocks, and it shows that Beth used up hardly any time to even think. Now, within the next scenes, we see Beth traveling a lot to tournaments on planes with Alma. And here in the article, the writer mentions that before technology took over, they didn't have an opportunity to pull up a chess game on their phones or tablets or computers, so they had these travel chess sets and this pocket chess set, which we can see on the picture Beth had as well here. And then this is something I just looked for. And I remember we used to have one of these as children because when we completely started, we just learned from books. Like, there were no computers, or we didn't have really computers. Warrior says, almost an opera mate. Absolutely, Warrior. That's a good insight. Absolutely true. So I found this was so cool that the article writer pointed out that it's true. Back in those days, there were no computers. Like, there was no chance you could either have your thoughts in your head about what chess moves were made or have a travel chess set. So that's super, super cool. Okay, in the next scene, we see Beth interviewed by this lady who is kind of not super duper nice, in my opinion. She's a typical news, like, journalist, I guess. She wanted some juicy details about Beth's, how her brain works, and she even mentioned apophenia, which is actually an illness when someone can only think in they basically overthink things, and they can only make sense of things that are kind of correlated to each other, I believe. I hope I'm not mistaken. Turkish Pogar says Beth doesn't need boards, she just needs to look at the ceiling. That's very true. So yeah, and for for a non-chess player to make such accusations, or such, I guess, just to label her with a mental illness, it's really not nice. And she even tries to dig and tries to ask her, do you see any correlation between a father figure and the king and a mother figure and the queen? And Beth basically brushes her off quickly, saying, no, they are just pieces, and she mentions that she feels in control when she's plays chess, because she can dominate the 64 squares of the chessboard. And I found that very interesting. So yeah, what did you guys think about this part with the journalist? Any observations? I found it very interesting. And at the end, Alma comes in the room and kind of sends away the journalist, because she's being quite inappropriate. She even mentions that there is a fine line between genius and crazy, and basically she implies that Beth might be borderline crazy. Now, within a time leap, we end up in Las Vegas at the US Championship in 1966, and she accepts Town's invitation to go up to his bedroom, and we know there is a bit of a heated scene where we think maybe something is going to happen between them, but at the end nothing happens between them. But this is the chessboard that is on Towns' bed, and that's the situation that is on there. And Beth surprisingly plays the next two moves exactly as it happened in the actual game, and this just implies that Beth has already seen this game before and memorized it, and basically, she'd seen it 13 years ago according to the scene timeline. So it just shows how great Beth's memory is. You will see a screenshot from the episode, and this is actually the game from 1953 between Geller and Smyslov. Now what we are gonna go into is actually this is around the final scene of this episode, when she finally gets to play against Benny, who is the US champion. And we see that before Beth makes her first move, she takes a long time and she thinks and looks at the board. And this actually, guys, this actually happens a lot with big chess players, that they would just sit there even before they made any move. What do you guys think they do when they do that? Just stare at the board, opening position, their time is ticking. What do you reckon could happen this time? I have definitely witnessed this before, and sometimes I mean, I haven't really done this, but I do see the point, especially when you know your opponent and you prepared against them. What could Beth think about right before the first move, or what could she do? Maybe they try to focus before they start. That's a good idea, Turkish Polgar. They definitely try to focus. And also, what else they do is that they sit there and you never played in a real tournament. Okay, no worries. That's why I think it's exciting to go through the Queen's Gambit from the tournament's perspective, because I know some of you never got a chance yet, but who knows, maybe in the future. But yeah, and also what they do is they visualize on the chessboard the opening. So they visualize, they go through in their head over what they were preparing, because here Beth already knew Benny's games, so they both were preparing against each other, so they basically just visualize the moves. That's why sometimes when we practice, let's say we don't play out each and every move, but we just say the move so we can visualize what the move was. It's very important to enhance that capability of visualizing the moves, guys. Okay, alrighty. And Benny is opting for the Sicilian Najdorf, and which Beth already learned from Mr. Scheibel, which is so before she made the e4 move, she was actually focusing, going through in her head what Benny could respond, what could be the options, and Benny responded with the Sicilian Najdorf. Unfortunately, no surprise, Beth lost this game. And on the left picture, you guys will see why she actually lost it. And then on the right picture, a few moves after, this was where Beth actually decided to resign, because she remembered how Mr. Scheibel said that a good sportsmanship is to resign. And I guess she was already at a level where, you know, she played the US champion, so like she knew what is the level where she can resign this game. She's checking the white king and also forking a rook there. And at the same time, also white king could be in trouble. This knight on g2 is attacked by the rook and the bishop as well. So here white king can only move to e2, and then we will also take both the knight and both the rook. So yeah, that was the sad situation for Beth. Yeah, I guess it was a good learning curve for her, just as for everybody. This is the last. So today was very like chessy, the slides, because I found this article on Chessbase India, and the writer brought out really mainly just the chess references. There were a lot of chess references in there. There were even more which I didn't get to, but I just wanted for you guys to show something new, hopefully, about chess and chess tournaments.